I received an email asking me to delve into rental inspection programs. Now, I have to admit, having lived my adult life in rural America and owning my own home for over 30 years, I haven't had to deal with rental inspection programs. Now, while I was researching these programs, I realized they may be just the tip of a truly large iceberg. So we'll discuss that next on the Constitution Study.
Neighbors and have a few good friends. Every day we're everyday Americans. Oh, every day we're everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution. We teach the rising generation to be free. Today, I'm taking on a question. I love questions. I love people who want me to look into things or maybe question something of what I'm talking about. It's this iron sharpens iron, this looking into things that helps expand our knowledge. So I want to thank the person who sent in this request, this question. I hope you enjoy the answer, and I hope to hear from you again on the website. But for now, let's take a look at these rental inspection programs. Rental inspection programs are local ordinances that allow government inspectors access to private property in order to ensure that local codes regarding rental units are met. Since these programs are created at the local level, they are not all the same. Now, while my research has been somewhat brief, they do generally have several things in common. First, these inspections cover not only the public and mechanical areas, things like water, heating, air conditioning, etc., but the rented units themselves. Now, access to the rental units usually requires that the owner notify the tenant of the upcoming inspection beforehand. Second, the inspection is supposed to be for compliance with building codes related to safety and quality of living conditions. Now, so far, most people would probably not see a problem. Then again, there's the question of the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. What about the tenant's right to be secure in their homes? How far can a city inspector rummage around in your home looking for code violations? And what are the limits of what the inspector can report? The answer is, as usual when it comes to the Fourth Amendment, it comes down to when and under what conditions a search is reasonable. Now, according to Webster's 1828 dictionary, reasonable is not agreeable to reason, exceeds the bounds of reason, claiming or insisting on more than is fit, immoderate, exorbitant, as in unreasonable love of life or money, and irrational. Now, many would say it's quite reasonable for the city to inspect rental units. After all, they're just trying to keep you safe. Then again, if it's reasonable for one city employee, say a code inspector, to enter your home to keep you safe, why wouldn't it be reasonable for another city employee, say a police officer, to do the same? Call it a slippery slope or the camel's nose under the tent flap. Once the people think it's reasonable for a government actor to enter your home to keep you safe, we've given them a tool to invade not just your privacy, but your castle under the pretense of keeping you safe. Now, as I dug into these rental inspection programs, it got me thinking of just how much cities, towns, and counties have taken control of our lives. When I first started the Constitution Study, it was just me, my website, and writing my book. Then I wanted to sell my book personally. I could have simply allowed a publisher to sell my book, but I couldn't find one that wanted to. Now, after I self-published with Amazon, I could have let them do all of the selling for me. But I wanted that personal interaction of selling directly to people. No big deal, right? It's my book, so I should be able to sell it. Except being a resident, a citizen of the state of Tennessee, if I started selling books, I needed to collect sales tax for the state. Now, to do that, I needed a county business tax license. Now, not only do I have to collect and remit sales tax, but now I have to file paperwork about any property my business owns and, of course, pay taxes on it. And I'm just a small author trying to make his way in the world. Consider all the other businesses that need government approval to operate. If the Constitution Study wanted to build a place for an office in the city near where I live, well, I would need not only to follow the city building codes and have my property inspected, but I would need a certificate of occupancy. Basically, I would need the city's permission to occupy my own property. Now imagine I want to expand the Constitution study into other businesses. Let's say I want to open a coffee shop where people can sit and discuss the news of the day, just like in our colonial days. Well, I'd need more permits, more licenses, and of course, more inspections for this too. Health inspections, building inspections, and who knows what else. And suppose I want to go into business with a neighboring barber shop or hair salon. Not only do I have all those pesky permits and inspections, but the people in those shops would have to be licensed by the state to cut hair. In many states, they would also need continuing education to cut hair. Where is the reasonableness of all of these inspections, permits, and licenses? From a fundamental misunderstanding of the role of government. We've all been trained that government is there to protect us. What would you say if I told you that was not only wrong, but antithetical to a free people? Just look at the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's right. Governments are not instituted to provide for you, watch out for you, or even keep you safe. Governments in free countries are created to protect your rights, especially the unalienable ones. Yes, governments provide for a common defense, but not an individual one. And yes, they provide a venue for a redress of grievance, but they are not empowered to prevent such grievances beforehand. Those are the responsibility of the citizen. As proof, multiple court cases have recognized that law enforcement does not have a legal duty to protect you, only to enforce the law once a crime is committed. Now, once we turn over our safety to government actors, we turn over our freedom as well. When we allow government to tell us what we can and cannot do and how we will be allowed to live our lives under the auspices of keeping us safe, we cease to be free citizens and become subjects of our rulers in government. We abdicate our sovereign powers that so many of our state constitutions say are inherent in us. We forego the authority to decide for ourselves in favor of the so-called experts in government, and we invite that government to intrude into our lives, homes, and effects to make sure we are keeping the law and the rules they've implemented to keep us safe. In short, we nullify the Constitution, the Declaration, and our God-given rights in an effort to avoid the responsibility of taking care of ourselves. Then some of us complain about the intrusive government agencies that are needed because we refuse to govern ourselves. As James Madison said in Federalist Paper 51, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. Since we the people are not angels, we need government to control our actions. And since those people we place in government are just as corrupt as the rest of the people, we need to control them as well. That is why each and every state in the Union must have a republican form of government, meaning that the people hold the power and hire representatives to exercise it for them. This balance of power between the people and their representatives provides not only control of the people, but control of the government as well. Without the restraining force of government, there is no protection of our rights, and only the strongest survive. When we turn over absolute regulation of our lives to government, surrendering all of the power over to government, we, the people, are nothing more than slaves. It is the balance between these two extremes that keep us free. Which leads me back to the original question regarding rental inspection programs. Cities inspect rental properties because they have assumed the power to keep renters safe. The people of these cities stood by while their representatives assumed this power, and in many cases not only cheered them on, but demanded that city officials protect them and their neighbors. In my opinion, tenants do not have a strong platform to oppose such inspections, and the reason is simple. When you signed the lease, it probably included language that allows the landlord to enter the premises for the purposes of repairs, maintenance, and probably required inspections. Part of the cost of renting property is giving up sole control of who enters your home. As for the property owners, the answer may be a bit different. Going back to the Fourth Amendment, we see that we are protected from unreasonable searches. The courts have generally defined reasonableness as what a reasonable person would find reasonable. And it is this defining a word with itself that leads to so much confusion in the legal world. Then I remembered that the person who asked that question was doing so in the contents of a previous article I had written regarding the IRS, specifically that an IRS audit is functionally a writ of assistance, which the Free Legal Dictionary defines as a writ authorizing officers of the British Crown to search any premises for smuggled goods. The code enforcement officer may not be searching for smuggled goods, but they are searching for code violations without any probable cause. Come to think of it, most of the inspection programs we have become so used to are not based in probable cause, which is apparent facts discovered through logical inquiry that would lead a reasonably intelligent and prudent person to believe that an accused person has committed a crime, thereby warranting his or her prosecution, or that a cause of action has accrued, justifying a civil lawsuit. So where does that leave us? Are rental inspection programs little more than writs of assistance? Is it reasonable to allow a government actor to search your property for some violation without any probable cause? And where does that leave all the other inspection programs? The only reasonable conclusion I can come to is that these programs are unreasonable since these inspections are not based in probable cause. What about the health and safety of the tenants and customers of these businesses? Simple. Should a tenant or customer complain, then whichever department was responsible for enforcing that law would have probable cause to get a warrant to perform the inspection. This not only would make those operating these inspection programs compliant with their oath to support the Constitution of the United States, but allow good landlords and business owners the opportunity to resolve some of these issues without involving the government. Since we the people have turned responsibility for our own safety over to various governments, we have no one to blame for these intrusive inspections and overbearing licensing requirements but ourselves. As James Madison warned, we enabled the government to control the governed, but forgot that we needed to control government as well. So to the person who asked the question about rental inspections, thank you. It gave me an opportunity to research something I'd never thought of before, to look at it from a different point of view, and to answer not just it, but other questions I'm likely to get. So again, thank you very much. If you'd like to ask a question, please go to the website, constitutionstudy.com. There's an Ask a Question button. It is simple. See, it's by asking questions and researching the questions that we learn, that we expand our knowledge, not just of ourselves, not just of the law, but of the Constitution itself and how we can defend and assert those rights that are protected by that document. That only comes with exposure, with reading and studying, which is what we do here at the Constitution Study. Now, I've started putting together some events I will be going to. You can find more about that at the website, constitutionstudy.com. Just look under events and you'll see my calendar. And you can always invite me to come to one of your events. I'd love to see you. I'd love to visit and learn more about what's going on there. Of course, if you want to get started, if you're still figuring out what you want to do here, I recommend John Jay's process. He said we should read, study, and teach. Now, if you want to read, I have a great book for it. I created a daily devotion for the Constitution. That's actually the Declaration of the Constitution. You read about 2.5 minutes a day, and in 30 days, you've read it all. The Declaration and the Constitution, every line, every clause, with a short commentary each day from me about what you just read. This is a great way to get started. It's also what I recommend for students as they begin this studying process. If you have children, generally middle school children is where I like to start, but you know your child better than I do. But if you have children that you want to study the Constitution, that is a great place to start. It's small, bite-sized chunks that they can read. By the way, it's a great opportunity to open discussion and debate about that. Now, once you read, I recommend you study. And I wrote a book for that as well. It's called The Constitution Study. It's how I started this website and how I started these videos, was studying the Declaration and the Constitution and writing a book about it. That's what that book is. It is my study through the entire Declaration and Constitution, clause by clause. It's written in plain conversational English. It is easy to read. It's easy to share. And it's designed for individuals or even small groups to get together and study the Constitution. You can find both those at the website, constitutionstudy.com, or on Amazon. But most of what you can do is take my articles, my videos, my podcasts, all of this information, and not only consume it, but share it. Spread the word, spread the news. I recently started a Substack to start spreading the word even farther, to let people know there's a place they can go to hear what the Constitution actually says, to ask questions, to challenge, to discuss, to debate, to learn to be free. And if you share that, well, that's got to be a gift worth giving. So hopefully you'll come back, maybe with a friend or two, the next time we meet right here at the Constitution Study.
Love your neighbors and have a few good friends.